So as you know that Chairman GD is the third step in the task process. So you've done the online application form, then you've completed the online gamified assessment, which I hope was good. And now based on your CV and other factors, online assessment, form, etc., people will get the shortlist for the Chairman GD.
Prakrut, one minute. Shreyansh is also here. He was also a task intern. So he'll also be here to answer your doubts, and he'll also give his inputs after Prakrut tells about it. Yeah.
Great. Yes, Shreyansh, please feel free to intervene anytime.
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty sure you'll cover up most of it. But yeah, cool.
So basically, the group size would last year was about 8 people. It might change given what they want to set it, but expect it to be 6 to 8 people in one group. The duration would largely be 6 to 8 minutes, again, depending on the number of people. And let's say if there are 8 people, then there will be 8 different topics. If there are 6 people, there will be 6 topics. And topics usually are. Chetan, if you could.
Guys, please mute yourselves and turn your videos on, please.
So the topics usually involve some ethical dilemma, either in a business management scenario, or sometimes it could be different setting as well. So it might be about a district collector, a village sarpanch, etc. But usually they have it related to business or management. So this is the format. So how does it look like? So let's say there are 8 people on the panel. The HR will, for each round, select a particular chairman. Once the chairman is selected, the HR will announce the topic to the entire panel who's sitting in the GD. She will give the topic once, and then it's the chairman's duty to reintroduce the topic. This time, the chairman will explain the topic to the rest of the group members with a certain input of him, from his end about the structure that he would want to be followed by the group. Then the members discuss the issue, and finally the chairman concludes. This is the whole format. Typically, chairman gets about 45 seconds to introduce the topic, and before the GD ends, 1 minute before it, the HR will notify that it is the last minute. So this is an indication for the chairman to conclude. So if some other member is speaking on an issue, they should end their point and immediately allow the chairman to conclude, because the chairman would typically require 45 seconds to conclude the topic. And once that is done, immediately a new topic will be given to the next chairman. So this is how the format looks like. Basic things to keep in mind. Number one, it's you don't have to speak in every single topic. So let's say there are 8 topics. You will be a chairman in one and a member in the rest of the 7 topics. So it is not absolutely compulsory to speak in all the 7 topics. It's okay if you speak in 6. Second is that when the chairman introduces the topic, they should simply not repeat what the HR said. You can obviously rephrase it a little, but also give a structure about what you want to be followed. One thing I would like to add here is that unless the group members completely derail the topic, chairman should avoid speaking during the discussion, because chairman is basically like the moderator. So you do not have to be a part of the discussion. When the chairman concludes, they have to cover all the points that were given by every single member on the panel. Summarize it properly, and no point should be missed. The members themselves should try to cover as many different perspectives as possible. So let's say a case has multiple stakeholders. So it should be ensured that all the different dimensions of the topic are covered. And if you are able to cover a wide number of issues, it shows that you have that diverse perspective to manage different stakeholders. And finally, of course, it's a great thing to arrive at a consensus and conclude positively. Another thing that I would like to add here is that unlike a marketing GD, which can be chaotic sometimes, this has to be very civil. You should not talk over someone, do not cut anybody off, and always try to ensure that everybody gets a chance to speak at least once before you make another entry. Generally, a second entry is not required, because if everybody speaks for a minute, the time limit should be covered. But let's say the topic is a little tough and people are not able to cover the 8 minutes, then only the member can make. But it's a very rare case where you will be making a second entry. So this is about the format. So what are they expecting in the GD? So first is communication. You have to use extremely formal language. You cannot use phrases which are not professional. Your entire speech should be very formal in the tone. Secondly, the non-verbal communication, the way you sit, uh, the way you nod your head, everything counts. So be very professional in the during the GD. And the final thing that I want to add here is please be polite and humble. Never show signs of aggression, being loud. All of those are big red flags. I mean, during the internship, I had a chance to interact with a lot of task managers. And one thing I could notice in everybody is politeness and being humble. That is one thing, one trait which I've noticed across different task managers. So keep this in mind. The second, obviously, is competence. Are you giving good points? You should not gas around. Talk about tangible issues, tangible solutions, cover various stakeholders. Basically, it's the content that you'll be talking about. And finally, is obviously the character. Never make a point which is in an ethically gray area. You have to be ethically sound. You cannot talk about anything which is legally or morally wrong. And while you don't need to mention the Tata values explicitly, try to showcase them through your arguments, through your points that you make. No need to mention them explicitly, but that should be evident from what you are saying. So therefore, three things: communication, competence, and character. If you're able to tick all these three boxes, you'll do very well. Finally, I have a couple of cases that I got. So you can just read through the case. So what will happen is the HR will first read this case out loud. Said, you are the plant manager. Your materials manager has complained that the procurement manager is not doing his job well and is bringing in faulty material. The material manager is an experienced veteran who has been with you for 20 years. You have deep faith in his judgment and do not doubt his commitment to the plant. On the other hand, the new procurement manager is a dynamic person who has really turned the plant around into a profitable enterprise with his energy and intelligence. Call a meeting of the board and resolve the issue. So once the HR gives the topic, immediately after 10-15 seconds, whoever is the chairman has to reintroduce the topic. So if I'm the plant manager, I'll start by saying that I will say that a very good morning to the members of the board. We have an important issue that we must discuss regarding our plant, and then just give a brief about the case. Once the chairman introduces the topic, gives the structure, all the members will give their point of views, what they think should be done, what is being done. So in terms of structure, I would say first discuss the current situation, talk about the diverse stakeholder points, then talk about the solution, and then also maybe add one point about how this can be avoided in the future. At the last minute, the HR will give a notification that only 1 minute is left, and then the chairman will start concluding the case, where he will cover all the points that have been discussed by the different members of the group. I'll show another case. So this time it's not a business scenario as such. It's the panel is a group of officials of the municipality of a small town. There is a school which has a ground for sports. The authorities are considering the setting up of a new hospital, which is absolutely important. The hospital authorities want the part of the land which belongs to the school. The school students also require the ground, which is imperative for their holistic development. The options are either shift the playground to a location away from the school or set up the hospital outside the city. Take a decision. So let's say you are the head of the municipality, and then you start the discussion. So these are the typical cases. I hope you get an idea of what I'm talking about. Somewhere it would be cases where there are multiple stakeholders with competing interests, and you have to find a solution which is legally, morally, ethically correct and should address all the stakeholder interests. So I think that is it from my side about how to go about it. You can ask questions now. And Shreyansh, first of all, if you want to add something.
Not really, not much important things left by you, Prakrut. Great work for the PPT. Just a couple of small things I noticed myself. Like these all things, I think this is like mandatory. You should not like you should not lose out on these things, but very minor things which I noticed in my own panel, people were doing like giggling, slouching, their body posture is like really bad. And the worst thing is you're speaking in your own mouth. Like that doesn't make any sense. You have to be humble but be loud so that at least the panelists hear you out. Also, uh, never like never think twice on contradicting anyone as long as it's completely logical. So I guess in Lucknow's summers, their whole panel got scrapped because they were told to not contradict and all that. Just think through things, and if it's logical, do contradict. So that is there. Otherwise, the rest all is perfect. Thanks a lot, Prakrut, for this.
Yes, I think that is a good point. I mean, in my panel also, somebody was so polite, so humble that they were not even audible to the HR. So they had to tell him that please be louder. So obviously, you can balance confidence with being humble and polite. It's not contradictory. Uh, so do try to be loud. And yes, it is completely fine to have a different perspective. The idea of a discussion is that you discuss diverse points so that the company or the board has clarity about what to do. So no harm in giving different perspectives. And you can always, put your point very diplomatically by saying that you made a very good point. I also feel that uh, this is also another perspective that we must consider as the board. Just be smart about it. That's it. I think there is one question on chat. Do two of the other members need to be materials and procurement manager also? No, you don't need to take up any role. You don't need to defend as a procurement or a procurement manager or the materials manager. The other question is that in the chairman address to the panel, should we also include the facts like the material manager is 20 years with the firm and chairman trusts him, etc. So no, you are the plant manager yourself and you trust him. So you don't need to, let's say it's a board meeting. So you don't necessarily have to mention that explicitly. You can do mention that he has been with us for a very long time, who has shown good judgment. You can do mention that, but no need to be completely verbatim about the case. Okay, let's go one by one. Sankalp. Sankalp, your hand is raised if you have a question. Okay, who's next? Vinal.
Hello, I had a doubt with respect to the structure of the GD.
Mhm.
As you mentioned that the HR will announce the topic, so the HR will individually announce for each panel or simultaneously tell at the same time all the eight topics. And my second doubt is that do we get the time between two different GDs to think about and come up with points if we are a chairman or something like that?
So topics would be given one by one. First topic will be given, then entire discussion about it. Once it concludes, then the second topic will be given to the new chairman. A time, I mean, there is not a lot of gap as far as I remember. I mean, once she announces the topic, he or she announces the topic, the chairman has probably 10-15 seconds before they should start speaking. And after the conclusion, it's over. Again, a new chairman is selected and the topic is given. So I don't think you'll have a lot of time to think about points.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yes, Aman.
So I had two questions. First is the role of chairman is just limited to announcing the topic and concluding it. Nothing adding, nothing much of value out there. And means first this question.
Okay. So yes, you are right. They have to introduce the topic and give a certain structure to it. So let's say this case about the hospital and school is there. So you just give a little structure that it's important that we consider the interest of the school children, but health is also a critical issue. And we must also look at how we can provide the best health quality healthcare to the city. So we should discuss both these points before deciding our solution or something on that line, on those lines. That's it. In conclusion, you just summarize what everybody has said. My personal opinion is that do not talk during the GD. you are a moderator, you should definitely not give a point of either side. That is strictly no. Let's say the discussion has been completely derailed, it's completely out of topic. Only then. But I think that would not happen. I mean, people are smart enough to stick to the topic. So you don't need to say that, oh, we are not considering this issue. Please talk about this. I personally feel that would not be the right way to go about it.
And the second thing I also wanted to ask, can we take some assumption? Because again, these answers again, if we don't take some assumption, they will be like very what I would say generic answer that we should listen to both, we should go into details, get the paperwork and everything. So can we take some assumption, or should we like strictly stick to this thing only?
Chairman, I don't think should take assumptions.
Not
I
chairman,
mean,
other people.
I think not the best idea. I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah, I think the case has details enough to not take any
yeah,
assumptions. Like, why do you want to take
Okay, okay.
assumptions?
this one is a
Okay.
sample case. Sorry, this is a sample case. There would be, I think, enough content. Shreyansh, correct, right? There was a lot of details there.
Yeah, they mentioned it before and stick to the case. So if you want to bring in some government scheme or some policy of your company, I don't think it is a good idea, whatever you're thinking. It is
Okay, okay.
yeah, it is enough.
Okay, so self-contained, please. Just I wanted to know that. Thank you.
Yes, Kanisha.
Hi, so my question is more about the solving of the case rather than the structure. Is there like a general rule of thumb about like maximum benefit to most people, or do we just go by what we feel right in the moment? What do you think?
Maximum benefit to see, that's a utilitarian perspective is fine. As a in a boardroom discussion, you will raise that point. So I think that is fine. Again, as an individual, you have to give your point of view. So a utilitarian perspective, if you can justify it properly, that's fine.
Okay, and do we also have to account for like keep in the back of our mind that this is still about a business because this is like related to a business, or we completely let go of the profitability point of view?
No, profitability is important, but not at the cost of values or rules.
Yeah, to just to add on to that, what Prakrut said, I think you can have couple of things in mind. First thing is strata values. Like utilitarianism is fine, but it should not be at the cost of that. Second thing is, see, if you are like you are in a POR, so your decision should feel like a POR person. You're not clinging to someone else. It has to be bold. That is also there. And definitely profitability, it depends. I think we had a case in our panel where like there was a loss of couple of lakhs, but we had to take it, right, Prakrut? I think
Yes.
there was one case. Yeah.
Yes, I mean we are. I mean the group is not shy of taking losses. That's not a issue as such. For a larger welfare is something that is very important. But again, it's very depends on the case. What are the situations given? Are we talking about short term, long term? A lot of factors. So there is no rule of thumb. The only rule of thumb is nothing ethically, legally wrong.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, Sudiksha.
Yeah, this is again about the conclusions. Is it okay if there is a double conclusion because maybe in case the group is unable to arrive at a consensus, especially in like the third case here, the second one?
So if there are, let's say there is no consensus by the group members, you just summarize it that while we had a strong arguments in favor of this, we also need to, there are other competing arguments about this. Or maybe, I mean, at the top of my head, I'd say we would need probably another meeting with just conclude on those lines. But again, very subjective. It's so, I mean, if the members have not been able to reach a consensus, as a chairman, you don't need to arrive at a consensus. You just have to summarize it.
Okay, in case of the third case, like, are there any possible conclusions your team would have come up? Because I think both of whatever you choose, they will be letting go of something major for the city. So I'm unable to find out what could possibly be the solution that could impress the panel.
So it's, to be honest, it's not about the solution as such. It's about the arguments that you present. What are the different perspectives that you have been able to bring to the table?
Okay, and
Maybe sports is very important to have overall healthcare. I mean, if the children are not having proper physical activities, that might affect their health outcomes in the long run. So it's an interesting point to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not very
Uh,
obvious.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think here it is explicitly mentioned take a decision. So you have to take a decision. So I think what you can mention is, see, it is written absolutely important. So that is there. So hospital has to be there. Now, what the issue is coming is that space is common. So it depends. Like a hospital has a lot of wings. There is this wings for mental people, people struggling through mental issues, and even people recovering from accidents, they have to work out on their motor skills. So there is a particular section of hospitals, especially in big hospitals, where there is a lot of playful activities. So maybe that space could be used by both of them, or that could be bifurcated. Such arguments I think you can present if there is definitely take a decision sort of thing.
Okay. And you had also meant, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, Shreyansh had also mentioned don't include something apart from the case like a company policy that you can enter or a government policy. So I was not very sure about it. Can you explain that in a bit more detail? Or what is it not to do in a case?
Shreyansh?
And you're on
Oh,
mute.
I thought she was asking from you, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, it depends. Like company policy definitely is respected to a company. In terms of government policies, I think most of the cases you won't need them, but it should also not look like some data you're putting it, and like that is the end of the solution. That's it. Government has mandated this for this, so that's done, guys. That's end of the problem. So that is not usually required. Like even in this case, I don't think you can use all of that. Otherwise, Prakrut, please add on to this.
Yes, I mean, usually, the top, it would be a very detailed case that would be given, and you will have enough talking points that you can take away from the case itself. One other thing I want to add is that the person who goes first and second, do not cover everything in that 1 minute. That I'll talk about the school, the hospital, the solution, the problem, everything in my 1 minute to show that, I have covered everything. That's a very wrong thing to do, because then you have left no points for the rest of the group to talk about.
Okay.
So do not make that mistake. Again, it shows that you're just here to score brownie points for yourself only, which is again, I don't think it's a good sign. You have 45 seconds to talk about. Talk slowly, talk in a formal language. You'll be able to cover enough content through it.
Prakrut,
Mhm.
I'm also interested in this third case. Could you share your views on possible course of action?
I haven't thought about it, but let's say, I mean, it's not very difficult to arrange buses for schools, right, to go to the playground. A municipality can do that. That's one thing. Your point, I loved it about, how you can have a physiotherapy uh, on the school ground. Main just
Yeah,
talk about.
right,
Mhm.
right. I mean, whatever cases we had, I don't remember any case where it was like take a decision, like just
Ah.
take. You have two options and take it. It was more of an argumentative, like the second one, call meeting of the board. So I think hopefully you guys will get all the cases like that. Like Prakrut mentioned, it is more about the arguments than the conclusion.
Okay. And one minor doubt, is this type of GD restricted only to TAS or will this knowledge help in recruitment of any other company as well?
The format, I don't think any other company follows this format for a group discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, who's next?
Uh, yeah. You can call me RM. So I had sort of a long question. Am I audible?
Yes, audible. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So it's sort of a three-parter. So first, I wanted to ask, like, can we have a bit more clarity on how actually we are graded in both scenarios in which we are a board member and when we are a chairman? So how exactly are we graded in both cases?
So when you're the chairman, the way you introduce the topic, conclude, and whether you've been able to give a decent structure to the case. That is largely what is considered. The way the group performs when you are the chairman, I think that also makes a difference. So that is about when you are the chairman. When you are the member, it's about the 3 C's that I talk about, right? What is the content that you had? Are your communication skills on point? And whether you show alignment to the group values in terms of your arguments. It's about the content of your arguments and your presentation, overall presentation.
Okay. And then I also had a question. Subiksha talked about it a bit before. Like, what if the group can't come to a consensus and we can't reach a singular decision? So, in that, when that happens, let's say a different sort of a different scenario. Let's say, unfortunately, time is almost up, and one of the members is in the middle of giving their point. Would it be better to, as the chairman, would it be better to interject and say, sort of, we're running short of time, blah, 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 and we should, I'll conclude, or should we let the person finish and then run the risk of exceeding the time? Which
So
one
I,
would
I
be?
think the responsibility of the member who is speaking, because when HR gives the warning, everybody can hear it. So the person who's making the point, they should immediately conclude and give time to the chairman. The
Yeah,
chairman should not say that the time is running out, please conclude. Ideally, the best way to do is the member immediately concludes their own argument.
yeah, but I mean, panelists won't point out in all the cases, and if the member is not recognizing on his or her own, then you don't have to mention we are running out of time. You can, like, yeah, guys, I think we have discussed as much as we could. I think we should conclude this, reach to a consensus or something like that. I think the panelists, they pointed out just once time about the time. After that, they were not pointing out in each case. Right, Prakrut? I think you would have noticed this.
So in our panel, what I noticed is that most of the times we were given a notice. So it depends how. I mean, if you're completing it early, maybe that's one possibility that you might not get a warning. But I think most of the times we did get a warning for the last minute. But do keep a track of time. Yes, I mean for this GD or any GDs in general.
Yeah, and like finally, I just want to ask, so if we can't come to a consensus, then a general rule of thumb would be to just summarize the points and say something like, we've made these points, and then just list them out. That would be a good conclusion, right?
Yes, that
If
we discussed various perspectives, but since we do not have a clear path ahead, a clear consensus, it would be ideal to deliberate once again on this topic, maybe something of that sort. So one advice is that think of general lines that you can say in conclusion and introduction, standard phrases, very formal, use formal words. So maybe deliberation instead of discussion, something of that sort. Do have those ready to sound more formal. I did that. I had a couple of sentences that I prepared that I would find a way to fit them somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Give greetings, a very good morning to the members of the board. We have a critical issue that needs to be resolved, something of that sort. Shruti.
Yes, hello. So my question is, a bit revolving around the like, let's say, discussion when it's happening. So as you mentioned that we'll have 7 to 8 minutes and everybody, let's say, is speaking for 1 minute, right? So everybody will just try, let's say, if we take the school playground and the hospital case, everybody will try that they have a point of view regarding favoring one. And let's say they have just told, hey, according to me, this is better to do because of this reason. And everybody speaks for, let's say, about a minute, and everybody just goes on to put their own point forward. So in that case, I don't think so anybody will be able to arrive at a conclusion, because we'll not have time to make a second entry or just try to eliminate any one of the, let's say, options and just move ahead with one. So how should be our approach? And again, you mentioned that we should not be mentioning about everything and stick to one particular point, and leave points for others as well. So I'm just confused regarding how should we be putting our points and how should the group coherence be?
So I think group coherence and group dynamics are very important. It again depends on who the 8 members are on your group. What I noticed in my GD is that we eventually, we would reach a consensus. Let's say, the idea that we have a school buses, we create an hospital, we have school buses that take them to the playground on a particular day, on a Saturday. That sounds like an acceptable idea. Largely, you can obviously oppose it, but eventually the group would reach the consensus. If not, that's fine. You cannot always have a decision. And like Shreyansh said, that in most cases, you won't be asked to take a decision. You will be asked to discuss it only. Then in that case, it's fine.
Okay, so like in such cases, if anybody has already mentioned a very nice perspective, like let's say potential solution, so we should just try and build along those lines. And again, if we think that that's a valid point, should not go about, opposing that and try to continue on the same line so that our group can arrive at a conclusion, right?
If you have an interesting point to counter, why not? You can. But if you think that, I don't have anything to add, then obviously it's a good idea to build on that.
Okay, and just one last question. Like you also mentioned one point that it's not mandatory to take entry in all the, let's say, topics. So
Mhm.
you mean like, let's say, we don't take any entry in any, like, in a particular topic that works, or like, what is the scene with that particular thing that you mentioned?
Yes, that works. So let's say there are 8 topics. I'm a chairman in one of them. 7, I have to be a member. So in one of the topics, it's okay if you don't speak. In
Okay.
fact, our seniors advised us to, consciously avoid one, but it's fine. I mean, if you have a good point, so usually, what happens is in my case, a lot of the times everybody spoke once and still we had some time left. Then you can put another entry. So let's say you have decided that I do not want to speak on this topic, but then there is a lot of time that is still left. Then maybe you have to enter and talk about it. Depends on the situation, the time, the case. But there is no negative points for not speaking in one of the uh, topics.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Aditya.
Yeah, hi Prakrut. I was wondering, how exactly do you politely disagree with someone when it's a case where you have to choose one option or another option? Let's say one panelist goes with one option. How do you disagree and say that, no, I think we should go with this second option? What is the correct way to do that?
So while it's an important perspective that you've presented, I think the students of the school are an important stakeholder. They've been with the school for a very long time, and I think it's important that I do put their interests for the board to discuss, and this is why school should do X, Y, Z.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, Nikunj.
So my question is a bit off topic, but how much weightage do the games really have? Because so in my case, the assessment did not go actually really well. So should I like even prepare for the chairman GD? Because my games did not
Yes,
go as
yes.
per expectations. So I feel that if they have a high weightage, why should I even prepare for the GD?
Because failing to prepare is preparing to fail. You must prepare, right? You don't know what the weightage is. Neither do I.
Okay.
So why do you want to take that risk? If you have a short list, what will you do then? Do practice it. And I think this is the ideas, the format in general also helps, ability to put your points in a very formal, professional way. It will help you somewhere in life. And don't worry too much about the online assessment in itself. Your form, your CV, and your answers are also very important.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, do prepare for it. Srishti, yes.
I wanted to ask that 8 minutes is a very short window.
Hmm.
And when we do marketing GDs, it's usually like 14 minutes, and we still have a hard time to conclude, give solutions, make framework, and all that. So, 8 minutes, 8 person, 1 person, one GD, one chairman. So, how much like entries we make, and like, is it okay if we make one good entry? And because if we take like 2 3 entries, other people might not have a chance to speak. So what should we do in those 8 minutes to like get to a very good result?
Got your question. So if you look at it, it's 64 minutes, 8 topics, 8 minutes each. So it's a 1 hour long group discussion. So first of all, 3 entries is too much. I have not heard of anybody take 3 entries. 1, 2 also very rare. Like you said, it's a short time. So second entry only in the case that only after everybody has spoken once and there is time left. Only then you make a second entry. Do not make another point if somebody is yet to speak. And again, quality over quantity. In one topic, if you skip it completely, that's fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, Shachi.
I had a similar doubt. I think that it was answered. It was with regards to impact over entries.
Yes, you should speak in one GD each, and okay to skip one. Do not miss out a lot of topics, right? You're only speaking in let's say 4 out of 8, that's maybe then you're not being active enough. 7 or 8. Nikhil.
Yeah, hi. What is the proper GD posture in this chairman GD? And since it carries a lot of conscious effort, do you have any recommendations for us?
Basic hygiene checks, sit straight, don't, continuously fidget with your hands, put them on the table, look at the person who's speaking, show that you are, actively listening to somebody. You should seem involved in the discussion. You're nodding, you are making eye contact with the person who's talking. As a chairman, you look at the person who's talking instead of, only looking at your book and writing the points down. You show that you're listening to the chairman should show that he's listening to the other person. And just, if it's a boardroom discussion, right? You're in a meeting of board of directors. How would you present yourself?
Thank you.
Reena.
Hi. So I have a question. Given the structure of the GD, being a chairman, so do you have any set pattern that you followed for all the GDs, or is it just because of the case it changed completely? Like there might be some things that you included irrespective of what the case was. So is there anything like that?
Basic things, like I said, the first sentence that very good morning to the members of the board. We have an urgent and critical issue that needs your inputs. Something of those common generic lines that you can prepare. After that, obviously about the case, you say that it is essential that we consider all the different stakeholders before we arrive at a decision. Typical stuff like that.
Okay.
Okay, there are some questions in the chat. Oh, a lot of questions in the chat. Is there any structure that we need to adhere to? I talked about it. In the conclusion, do we only summarize the points discussed or give a final solution? Only discuss the points. Do not add something which is completely your own point. As a chairman, are we allowed to make some additional details? Strictly stick to the prompt. Stick to the prompt. No particular format. Just summarize all the points. Maybe either in the order of the entries, or maybe in terms of the stakeholders. So first talk about the points regarding the school and then about the hospital. That would be a good format, I think. Say the group is not able to reach any one specific solution. How does the chairman conclude? We discuss this. If someone is not making a point, then as a chairman, can we encourage them to make a point? Tricky question that. I would say no. Don't point out to anyone that, why don't you share your perspective? I think it's the members' duty and the group's duty to A, give time to everybody, and B, the member themselves should be active enough to speak. If they're not speaking up, then it's something they're harming their own interests. So don't do that. Yes, Shreyansh has replied to that. I think Shreyansh has given answers to the next question as well. When do we get to know the shortlist and our group for the GD? At the very last moment. Do we need to completely conclude the discussion as the chairman, or just adjourn the discussion in case the conclusion is not reached? I did not understand that question. If you could just raise your hand and say, can the chairman take note while others are speaking? Yes, you can take the notes, but don't, completely be involved in taking notes that you are not involved in the discussion itself. I think we have addressed all the questions. If anybody has any more doubts, questions. Yes, Mimi.
So my question was, since the chairman is given...
Can you be a little louder?
Am I audible now?
Better, yes.
Yeah, so the question was, does the chairman have enough time to formulate an introduction for the case, since you said that there would be a lot of information in the case?
Is Shreyansh still here? I think we had probably 15-30 seconds. I'm unable to recall it completely.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So yeah, the question was,
Shreyansh is asking that does the chairman, once the HR gives the topic, how much time does chairman have before he starts speaking?
Yeah, I think 10-15 seconds. It should not took. Actually, they repeat the question twice, first of all.
Right.
So after that also, if you're taking 1 minute, you can assume what kind of impression that will give. You can take 10 to 15 seconds, at max 20, but like don't extend it a lot.
So basically, the 8 minutes would start immediately after the HR has completed the second. Once they've talked about the case once again, after that 8 minutes would start. So the 10 seconds are also being cut off the 8 minutes. So don't take too much time. Manoj, yes.
Got it. Thank you.
So you gave the example of how to introduce, like, good morning, respected board of directors. We'd like to we have a problem at hand. We'd like to arrive a resolution of ISA. So could you give us an actual explanation of any one of the actual example of any one of the case that was presented? And could you, like, as a chairman, act as a chairman and give us the proper chairman introduction, as you would in a actual chairman GD?
Shreyansh, do you want to take that?
I think you can take it up, Prakrut.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me. Okay. Okay, let me look at the case. You are the. Okay, so let's say for the first case, right? I would say that a very good morning to the members of the board. There is an important issue regarding the functioning of our factory. In order to ensure that it functions effectively, we need to address this particular issue. We have a situation where there is some sort of disagreement between the procurement manager and the materials manager in terms of the quality of the material. The procurement manager is saying, the material manager has complained that the quality of materials that we are getting for the factory are not good enough. However, the material manager has been with us for the last 20 years, and we have noticed that he has done his duty well. Therefore, we need to find a way to resolve this situation, and I would appreciate if you could share your perspectives about how do we go about this case. Something of this sort. I mean, don't take it like what I said, right? But you get an idea about, just introduce the case, give a structure. So I would say that if you could discuss all the perspectives and come to a solution so that our factory's operations are back to normal as soon as possible.
Okay. Also, do we also give, like, in the introduction, do we also add the stakeholders involved? Like, I think we should consider the materials manager, the procurement manager, and the one or two other stakeholders I can think of in the back of my head, in the top of my head. Can we add them in the introduction itself?
So here, do not explicitly mention it that, don't say that, one stakeholder is procurement manager, the other is this, and this is third, and we should consider these three stakeholders. It is important that the procurement process is in line with our policies, and we also need to ensure that the material qualities remain consistent and overall structure of the organization remains. There is a high level of coordination between the different divisions of the organization.
So the stakeholders have to be mentioned in the GD, right? So while discussing,
you have to explain the case, yes.
Okay, so is it the duty of the chairman to introduce the stakeholders, or is it the duty of the other board members to, like, introduce one by one the stakeholders and their views about it?
You can give a nudge towards it.
Okay.
So, for example, in the municipality thing, right? So you can, say that while we want to ensure the highest level of physical fitness for our school students, the health of the citizens in our city is also paramount. That's it.
So a very subtle nudge is required, and then you let the members do the job.
Yes, and members can come up with a different stakeholder in case that has been missed completely. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so to add on to this, I'll say both while being the chairman and the members, the time is extremely short. Don't try to come up with very smart statements and all that. Just focus on what is there. Even if you are not sounding very smart in terms of connectors, how you are addressing everyone. If you are on the point, that's it. You won't be able to come up with extremely brilliant things. बहुत कम time होता है. Stop thinking a lot, I'll say.
Okay.
First is content. Obviously, if the content is not good enough, rest of the things are extra. Yash.
Yeah, hello Prakrut. So my question was regarding the second case here. Do we also get some additional data like if the materials manager has, the procurement manager has changed the suppliers or something? Because there is a fault with the quality of material.
Usually the case would be much more detailed than the ones I've shown.
Okay.
It's a very long case. We also, it's difficult for us to remember them. There is no repository of cases that is available for TAS Chairman GD. So I found this two on the internet and some from my own memory, what happened. We don't have a repository as of now.
Okay. And just a follow-up question. Do we get the case in a written form or do the speaker just reads out the case for us?
The HR reads out the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Ayush.
I had question regarding the example of the plant manager case. By the end of the time, is it like there has to be one clear answer, that is he at fault or is he the other person at fault, like that? We have to choose one, is it, or can the answer be diplomatic type?
I would typically come up with a process which puts both the material manager and the procurement manager in loop for ordering materials. Something of that, a procedural solution instead of saying who's right or wrong. Maybe, I could say that since he's been us for the last 20 years, he knows the suppliers also very well. He's aware about the quality of materials across different time periods in the year. So if the procurement manager and the material manager are in loop throughout the process would be much more effective and it would solve the problem. Something of that sort. No need to fix a blame because it's not possible in the case. There is not enough information. And it's not about it's not even about giving blame to somebody.
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
I just have one last question that I mentioned in the chat box also. So while the board members are speaking, can the chairman take brief notes so that, they do not miss out anything while they're concluding, or we should just try to keep note of things in our mind only?
You have a pen and paper, so you can keep notes. It would be a good idea to write it down. But like I mentioned previously, that don't focus all your energies in writing it down. You should be seen to be listening to the other members.
Got it. Thank you.
Prakrut, I think we'll wrap it up.
Yes, if you have any more questions, please reach out to Shreyansh or me.
Prakrut, one last thing, can you just tell them have you prepared, Shreyansh also, have you prepared for tasks like the interview and how typically a task interview will be? Can you just brief on that and we'll finish it?
Yeah, I think I'll quickly share mine. I have to go also, guys. So sorry for that. But yeah, about the interview, right? So I prepared my CV well, and yeah, my interest in CV well. That's it. Nothing else. Absolutely no loopholes in my CV. That's what I tried to be confident about. And Prakrut, yeah, please take it up. Sorry, guys, I have to leave. You can reach out later on.
Thank you so much, Shreyansh, for
Yeah, no
spending
issue,
the
no issue.
Friday
All the
night
best,
with
guys.
us.
Go Rocket. Yeah.
Thank you, Shreyansh. Preparation, yes, CV you should know inside out. I think I've said it before also. You should be aware about every single line on your CV and not just, a very superficial understanding of your CV points. If your hobby is, let's say, cricket, right? Then you might not be simply asked a question about, what do you think about the current state of a team? You might get a question like, do you think men and women cricketers should be paid equally? What are your thoughts about it? There could be multiple levels of questioning about each of your CV points. CV is yourself, it's your identity, and you should be able to talk about it very confidently, very clearly. So in terms of preparations, mentally you should have 2 to 3 minutes of talking points for each of the CV point. Know very well what you have written, know the motivations behind your PORs, what you did in your projects. A little bit about why Tata, why TAS answers are very important. It shows how interested you are in the group. So try to make them interesting rather than being very generic about it. That it's a patriotic company. I'm very patriotic. Perfect match. That's a very shallow answer. So prepare those answers well. I think yes, that's it.
No, I think like task questions you on your CV for at least an hour. They are very senior members of TAS and they will question you like crazy on your CV. So you just can't say whatever you want. They will keep questioning you. So be prepared for that, whoever gets a shortlist. If I'm not wrong, that's the case, right, Prakrut?
Sorry, can you repeat once?
Yeah, like they'll question you for at least an hour, right, on your CV alone.
Yes, depends on their timings, but 30 minutes to 1 hour, anything is possible.
So yeah, CV prep is the main part of it, and know about Tatas in general as well. For like, I think when Prakrut used to read a book on the Tatas, and even that is something that I would suggest everyone to do, like read articles, know about Tata and everything, so
See,
that you'll have something.
you don't need to know all the data trivia. You don't need to be expert on the group. But if they ask you that what are the key priorities of the data group for this decade, you should be able to talk for 2 minutes. What do you think has been the group's contribution to the country? Where do you think we can improve? What can we do different? You should have thought about all these things. What is your favorite Tata company? Why? Such questions you should prepare in advance. What does TAS generally consider or look for in a CV?
I think no one knows is my answer. Prakrut, you have an answer for that?
I don't know. I mean, they say it's a leadership development program. So traits of leadership. Now there can be, as you know, different styles of leadership, different traits of leadership. What they're looking for, we cannot pinpoint. But as long as you show an interest in the group, you show an inclination with their values, and you are a competent person in terms of your answers, I think those are the general things.
Thank you, Prakrut, and thank you for all this valuable information, and recorded the session as well. I'll try to upload it somewhere because this is very important. And thank you, Prakrut. You did this in a very short time, and it was amazing. And I like the blue FMS logo as well. Thank you for that.
The Tata Blue, yes. So I did it in the last 30 minutes. So excuse if the PPT is not up to the light art standards.
It's much better.
The best
Okay.
guys, always feel free to reach out to any of the seniors, the TAS interns. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, guys, for turning up.
Thank you, HR software.
Thank you so much, Prakrut.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prakrut. Thank you, Shreyansh.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
HR
much.
Society. Thank you.
Thank you.